The Outer Worlds was a spacefaring, retro-future game recognizable as a continuation of Obsidian's efforts on Fallout, though it had enough of a distinct setting and its own gameplay systems to feel fresh. The Outer Worlds 2 builds on that sturdy foundation, and while it's largely more of the same, it is also a confident and expansive sequel that suggests a bright future for the Outer Worlds as an ongoing series. In Outer Worlds 2, you play as the Commander. In short, you're a fixer, dispatched to the Arcadia region that's being ripped apart by a factual war, corporate takeovers, and the emergence of rifts that have been cutting the colony off from communications with Earth. From the very beginning, you have your badge and gun, so to speak, along with your own fledgling crew and a spaceship base of operations called the Incognito. Of course, your very first mission goes terribly wrong, as these things tend to. And when you regain consciousness, sometime later, you set out to find the persons responsible for the botched mission, while also investigating the increasingly dire rift problem. It's a strong opening that propels the story forward with momentum and mystery. One of the greatest strengths of Outer Worlds 2 is how it creates opportunities for roleplay, in the classic sense of messy improvisational drama or, sometimes, tragic comedy.
Oh dear.
As you weave your own story and interpret a cohesive narrative for yourself. I began with a roustabout as a goof, wanting to play as a charismatic, trigger-happy dumbass in the vein of Futurama's Zap Brannigan. I specialized in the guns and speech skills, and chose a lucky bonus trait, wanting to handle myself in a fight but also open, smooth-talking dialogue options and sometimes just blunder my way through with astounding luck. And it worked for a while. But somewhere along the journey, things started to subtly change. I made mistakes that I wasn't fully comfortable with for the sake of maintaining my character, and I faced dilemmas that forced me to think about where I drew the line. By the end, the story of my commander was an overconfident idiot who slowly grew into a capable leader, learning to trust their crew and having gained their trust in return. In the end, that was much more interesting and fulfilling than spending the entire 20 or so hours as a Captain Kirk parody. Like the first game, most of your time is spent venturing to strange worlds, taking a quest to progress the story or your reputation with various factions, and fighting your way through alien beasts, hostile automatons, and opposing human armies. And, like the first game, the Outer Worlds 2 is primarily combat-focused. You can talk or engineer your way out of some situations, but mostly you need to just clear the area of hostiles before investigating the next story node. I leaned into the gunplay because the wealth of guns on offer felt great. My memory of the first Outer Worlds was that guns were a means to an end, but in Outer Worlds 2, it feels much more like a native shooter. One weapon might run on Xenarium, dealing radioactive damage but overcharging automech enemies instead. Another could be a triple-barrel shotgun with a chunky 1-2-3 punch. There are 10 different ammo types, so I spent most of the game swapping my weapons constantly and then discovering how much I liked the new one. A flexible mod system lets you further customize your playstyle with your favorite guns, though I was hot swapping them so often I usually didn't take full advantage of mods. In addition to your weapons, you also have a handful of gadgets. The tactical time dilation mechanic from the first game, a clear reference to Fallout's VAT system, makes its return here, letting you slow down time to line up that perfect shot at an enemy weak spot. There are other important gadgets this time around as well. An acidic dematerializer that dissolves bodies in case you're trying to sneak your way through, and an N-ray scanner that lets you see cloaked enemies as well as see the wiring for solving engineering problems. Since the gadget button always uses the last one, I would often use my N-ray scanner in a non-combat section and then forget to swap back to the time dilation gadget before getting into combat, but otherwise the options are nice to have. To build out your character, you're granted 2 skill points per level, but there are way too many avenues to specialize in all of them, and many of the higher level skill checks require you to specialize relatively early. And since the game is largely combat focused, I have to imagine you would have a difficult time if you specialize too exclusively in non-combat skills like science, engineering, or lockpicking. Every 2 levels, you also get a perk point to shape your character even further with special effects, some of which stack on top of each other. For example, an Intimidator perk requires a high speech skill, but it's actually a combat ability that frightens certain weaker enemies when they get hurt. A second perk, Grim Visage, builds on it further by frightening surrounding enemies. It's a very flexible system that grants extremely strong bonuses, and right from the beginning, you can look through the list and mark favorites to help you steer toward a particular goal. Working in conjunction with your skills and perks is the return of the flaws system. This was one of my favorite aspects from the first Outer Worlds, and it's even better this time. Despite the name, flaws aren't necessarily negative and are actually more like trade-offs that help augment your play. If you get presented with one you don't like, you can always just reject it. Some of these flaws will even make the game much harder and more unpredictable. After telling one too many lies, I was presented with the option for a compulsive liar perk, which would automatically select lies in every dialogue tree. I rejected that one because I wanted to control when I lied, but some flaws are just great ways to complement your playstyle or make up for deficiencies. When the game noticed I was constantly reloading, it gave me the over-prepared flaw, which granted me much larger weapon magazines, but with a heavy damage debuff if I ever let a magazine hit empty. Your build includes not just your own character, but that of your companions as well. Each has a companion ability that can be activated in combat, and every 5 levels, they get their own choice between 2 perks, helping shape which kind of companion they become. The first such upgrade for Niles, for example, lets you make him a tanky character to draw enemy aggro, or boosts his own firepower, each of which complements his companion ability that draws enemy fire and hits for increased damage. Plus, each companion has passive traits, like Niles' ability to act as a mobile workbench in case you need to craft more ammo or mods in the field. Selecting which companions to bring along for a mission and how you've built out their abilities makes a huge difference in how you play. I was able to take my time to fidget with my gadgets and aim down sights because I knew the enemies would reliably be targeting Niles. Plus, each companion has their own specialized weapon and armor, and level up automatically with you, sanding off some of the busy work of managing a party. In addition to your companion abilities and perks, each companion also has their own mini quest line, which unlocks even further customization, like increasing a particular damage type and changing their cosmetic appearance. The added benefit of companions from a story perspective is that they help to flesh out the world by giving you more perspectives and fleshing out of the galaxy. My personal favorite was Marisol, an aged Black Ops agent who formerly worked for one of the factions. Aside from just being cool as hell to bring along a graying female secret agent, I appreciated her cold and calculating perspective on events as they unfolded. And her multi-part companion quest was a neat spy story set against a sci-fi backdrop. The story is heavy with satire, which is not subtle.
Good thing I don't prescribe poison then. Normally.
Think Mad Magazine more than The New Yorker, but half of it is delivered with a blunt earnestness that makes it feel righteous and timely. That half is the one that envisions a future ruled by fanatical, quasi-religious devotion to unchecked capitalism, represented by the megacorp Auntie's Choice, the result of a merger between Auntie Cleo's and Spacer's Choice from the first game. None of it is specific enough to take aim at Obsidian's parent company, Microsoft, but it lands as a broader and fairly incisive critique of our current moment. The other main target of mockery is the Order of the Ascendant, equally fanatical but devoted to the pursuit of knowledge and science, with the misguided notion that they can unlock the secrets of all existence and rule everything with perfect mathematical precision and clarity. They're portrayed as more noble and humanitarian, but also aloof and unfeeling. You can sense how this is meant to be a counterweight to Auntie's Choice, which is all about appealing to baser instincts and maximizing profits, but the satire lands with a thud. Rather than seeing well attuned to our current moment like the critiques against capitalism, taking aim at scientists and researchers right now just feels like punching down.
We all know that a structure is only as strong as its basest elements.
The visuals in The Outer Worlds 2 generally aren't stunning. This style of RPG is more about the machinery of the world than the aesthetics, but the scope of some of them is impressive regardless. This is slightly undermined by there being no particularly fast way to travel. As far as I can tell, you just have to hoof it everywhere. So most of the time, you'll just stick to sprinting in straight paths. That can lead to problems because the waypointing isn't always clear about how to reach your next destination. And once you unlock later missions, it can be frustrating that there is no fast travel between planets. Load times can also be long for some larger areas, at least on Xbox Series X where I played, so there's a fair amount of waiting as you planet hop. Similarly, pace-breaking are the multitude of computers that you encounter on each planet, which deliver chunks of information and story details, but often feel bogged down in corporate speak and back-and-forth correspondence. This seems intended to exemplify the setting, which is full of corporate and scientific bureaucracies. So while it plays well into those themes, it also means the action is punctuated by a lot of reading breaks. To its credit, those breaks would be more of an issue if the rest of the game weren't so strong.
The Earth Directorate is on your side.
The Outer Worlds 2 feels like the series coming into its own, carried by flexible combat options and great role-playing progression. The first Outer Worlds felt like Obsidian trying to recapture the magic of Fallout's apocalyptic future in a new spacefaring context. The Outer Worlds 2 cements this setting as its own identity that can exist alongside its sci-fi contemporaries to deliver something that is familiar but also distinctly its own.